The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat across from my boss, Diane Warner, in her corner office. Her desk was a fortress of polished mahogany, stacked with files I'd meticulously organized over the past 5 years. She leaned back in her leather chair, her manicured nails tapping rhythmically, her expression cold. "Lydia, we're letting you go," she said, her voice sharp as a paper cut. "You're replaceable, and frankly, we need fresh blood." My stomach dropped, the words slicing through me. My name is Lydia Brooks, and at 38, I'd just been fired from my job as a project manager at Pinnacle Solutions, 3 days before a $50,000 bonus I'd earned for landing the company's biggest client. Diane slid a severance agreement across the desk, her lips curling into a smirk. "Sign this by tomorrow, and we'll make this easy." I didn't move. The air felt heavy, charged with her arrogance. She thought she'd won, but she had no idea what I was capable of. Before that moment, my life had been a steady rhythm of ambition and routine, a melody I'd crafted with care in Atlanta, Georgia. My apartment was a cozy haven in Midtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in the morning sun, warming the hardwood floors where I'd sip coffee and scroll through emails. I'd pour my heart into my work at Pinnacle, a tech consulting firm that thrived on high-stakes projects. My days were a blur of meetings, spreadsheets, and late-night strategy sessions, but I loved the challenge. I'd climb the ranks from junior analyst to project manager, earning respect for my ability to turn chaos into order. My team, 5 brilliant analysts I'd mentored, called me the glue that held our projects together. Outside work, I had a small but tight circle of friends. My best friend, Marcus, would drag me to jazz clubs on weekends, where we'd laugh over cocktails and debate life. My sister, Jenna, lived an hour away in Decatur, and we'd spend Sundays baking cookies with her kids, their giggles filling the kitchen. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, built on years of grit and sacrifice. I'd given everything to Pinnacle. When I started, the company was a mid-tier player, struggling to compete with bigger firms. I'd worked nights and weekends to streamline processes, train staff, and pitch clients. My biggest win was securing a $10 million contract with Horizon Innovations, a deal that put Pinnacle on the map. That bonus, $50,000, was my reward, promised in writing for meeting revenue targets. I'd planned to use it to pay off my student loans and start a savings fund for a house. Diane had praised me publicly for the Horizon deal, her smile wide at company meetings. But behind closed doors, she'd always been distant, her compliments laced with something I couldn't quite place. I'd ignored it, focusing on my work, believing my results would speak for themselves. I was wrong. The firing wasn't just a betrayal, it was a theft of my effort, my future, my trust. The signs had been there, lurking like shadows I'd desperately tried to outrun, their edges sharpening with each passing day. 6 months ago, Diane, my boss, brought in Vanessa Klein, a new consultant fresh from an Ivy League MBA program, her credentials gleaming like her polished smile. Vanessa was a vision of corporate perfection, tailored designer suits that hugged her frame, sleek hair that never strayed, and a disarming charm that won over executives with a single handshake. Diane was captivated, her admiration almost palpable, and she thrust Vanessa onto my projects without so much as a courtesy email. I'd catch them in the break room, their heads bent close, whispering secrets that dissolved into silence the moment I entered, their laughter fading like a radio turned low. Vanessa began presenting my work as her own, tweaking my carefully crafted slides with just enough flair to claim ownership, her confidence bordering on audacity. I raised my concerns with Diane, my voice steady but laced with unease, only for her to brush me off with a flick of her wrist. "Vanessa's just eager to prove herself," she'd say, her tone dismissive, her eyes avoiding mine as if I were an inconvenience. Then came the meetings I wasn't invited to, their agendas hidden behind closed doors, and the emails from which my name was inexplicably absent, like I'd been erased from the conversation. My team sensed the shift, their loyalty a quiet comfort. Over lunch one humid afternoon, Priya, my sharpest analyst, leaned across the table, her brow furrowed with worry. "Something's up, Lydia," she said, her voice low. "Diane's been asking me for your client notes, probing for details, but she clams up when I ask why." I forced a shrug, masking the paranoia clawing at me, but the knot in my stomach tightened, a warning I could no longer ignore. 2 weeks before the firing, I found the memo. I was cleaning out old files on the company server when I stumbled across a document in Diane's folder, mislabeled as Q3 budget. It was a draft email to the board, outlining a restructuring plan. My name was at the top, flagged for termination, with a note, "Replace with younger, cost-effective talent to align with long-term goals." The bonus was mentioned, too, with a suggestion to reallocate funds to executive incentives. My blood ran cold. Diane wasn't just planning to fire me, she was stealing my bonus to pad her own paycheck. I saved a copy of the memo to my personal drive, my hands shaking. I didn't confront her. Not yet. The betrayal stung, but it lit a fire in me. Diane thought I was replaceable. I'd show her just how wrong she was. Seated in Diane Warner's imposing office that sweltering afternoon, her venomous words, "You're replaceable," reverberated in my skull, each biting syllable a calculated stab at my self-worth, tearing at the pride I'd built over years of relentless dedication. The severance agreement lay before me on her polished mahogany desk, its crisp pages a sinister trap cloaked in dense legal jargon, designed to ensnare the unwary. Signing it would mean surrendering my right to sue, to reclaim the $50,000 bonus I'd earned through sleepless nights, and to challenge the injustice of her betrayal. My initial impulse was to fight back, to passionately recite the litany of projects I'd spearheaded, the high-profile clients I'd secured with my meticulous strategies. But Diane's smug smirk, curling with malicious confidence, revealed her calculated scheme. She was banking on my stunned silence to ensure my compliance. I forced down the suffocating lump in my throat, willing my expression to remain an impassive mask, concealing the tempest of rage and betrayal churning within. "I'll review it," I declared, my voice unwavering, a quiet defiance cutting through the tension despite the emotional storm raging inside me. Her perfectly arched eyebrows lifted, a flicker of surprise betraying her expectation of my collapse. "Don't take too long," she cautioned, leaning forward with predatory intent, her manicured nails glinting under the fluorescent lights. "This offer expires tomorrow." I nodded curtly, my fingers closing around the agreement as I rose, my heels echoing sharply against the gleaming hardwood floor, each step a deliberate assertion of my resolve. The office buzzed around me, phones trilling incessantly, keyboards clattering in a frenetic rhythm, but the sounds felt muted, distant, as if I were navigating a dreamlike fog, detached from the world I'd once anchored. As I passed Vanessa's cluttered desk, her head bowed over the project plan I'd painstakingly crafted for the Horizon deal, a fiery surge of determination coursed through me, igniting a clarity I hadn't felt in months. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I sank into my chair at my desk, the unopened severance agreement lying like a coiled snake before me. My team was out on lunch, their absence leaving the office cloaked in an unsettling hush, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioner. My thoughts churned, flashing to the damning memo, the triumphant Horizon deal, and the countless years I'd poured my soul into Pinnacle Solutions. Anger smoldered in my chest, a fierce heat, but guilt flickered too, a cold shadow. Had I been too trusting, too naive? So consumed by deadlines and deliverables that I missed Diane's cunning game unfolding right under my nose? I closed my eyes, picturing my first day at Pinnacle, a nervous 33-year-old with stars in her eyes, desperate to prove her worth. That night, I'd stayed late, my fingers trembling as I sorted through client files Diane had left in chaotic disarray, earning her fleeting praise, a hollow victory now. She was discarding me like those forgotten files, assuming I'd slip away quietly, another replaceable cog in her machine. But I was done fading. With a steadying breath, I opened my laptop, the screen's glow casting stark light on my resolve. I pulled up the memo, its words a stark reminder of her betrayal. Diane craved fresh blood. She'd get a wake-up call that would shake her to her core. I wasn't merely a project manager, I was the unyielding backbone of this company, and I'd ensure she felt the void of my absence with every misstep she took. The turning point arrived that evening in my midtown apartment, where the Atlanta skyline sparkled like a distant promise through my floor-to-ceiling windows, casting fleeting glimmers across the hardwood floor. My heart still raced from Diane's betrayal as I dialed Marcus, my voice quivering with a mix of rage and disbelief as I recounted every detail of her calculated dismissal. "She's stealing your $50,000 bonus," he exclaimed, his tone thick with incredulity. "Lydia, that's not just unfair, it's outright illegal. You can't let her get away with this." His words ignited a fierce resolve deep within me, like a match struck in the dark. I wasn't powerless, I held evidence, honed skills, and a network of allies Diane could never undermine. With newfound clarity, I called my lawyer, Karen Patel, a formidable, no-nonsense woman I'd met through a client years ago. Over the phone, my voice steadier now, I shared the damning memo and the ironclad bonus contract that promised my reward for the Horizon deal. "This is a textbook case of wrongful termination and breach of contract," Karen declared, her voice brimming with confidence. "That memo proves Diane's intent to defraud you. We can sue for the bonus, punitive damages, and more, but we must act swiftly to catch her off guard." I agreed without hesitation, emailing her the meticulously saved documents, my fingers trembling with purpose. Then, a spark of inspiration hit. I thought of Elena Martinez, the Horizon client who'd become a trusted friend over countless coffee meetings and late-night strategy calls. Elena valued my integrity, not Diane's hollow charm. If I could secure her loyalty, I could tip the scales in my favor. I sent her a cryptic text, my heart pounding, urgent, need to discuss Pinnacle's future. "Can we meet tomorrow?" Her reply flashed across my screen in seconds, resolute and unwavering, "Name the place, Lydia. I'm there." By morning, I'd made my decision. I wouldn't sign Diane's agreement. Instead, I'd fight, for my bonus, my reputation, my future. I met Elena at a quiet cafe, the aroma of espresso grounding me as I explained the situation. "Diane fired me to avoid paying my bonus," I said, showing her the memo. Elena's eyes narrowed. "You're the reason we signed with Pinnacle. If you're out, we're reconsidering." My heart raced. This was the twist I hadn't dared hope for. "I'm starting my own consulting firm," I said, the idea forming as I spoke. "If you're interested, I'd love to work with you directly." Elena smiled. "Send me a proposal. I'm in." That afternoon, Karen drafted a demand letter, claiming my bonus and threatening legal action for wrongful termination. I had it delivered to Diane's office, knowing Vanessa would see it. The game was on. Over the next week, I moved with precision, each step a calculated strike. I incorporated my firm, Brooks Consulting, using savings I'd kept separate from my bonus dreams. I reached out to my team, offering them roles if they wanted to jump ship. Priya and two others, Jamal and Sarah, agreed, fed up with Diane's favoritism. We worked from my apartment, drafting a proposal for Horizon that outshone anything Pinnacle could offer. I leveraged every contact I'd made over the years, pitching smaller clients who'd trusted my work. Meanwhile, Karen's letter hit its mark. Diane called me, her voice tight. "This is ridiculous, Lydia. You can't sue us. You'll ruin your reputation." I let her talk, then replied, "You said I was replaceable. Let's see who's missed more." I hung up, my pulse steady. The memo was my ace, and I'd play it when the time was right. The consequences unfolded swiftly. Horizon pulled their contract from Pinnacle, citing leadership concerns, and signed with Brooks Consulting. The loss sent Pinnacle's stock tumbling 15% overnight, as analysts questioned Diane's strategy. My team's departure, 3 key analysts, left Pinnacle scrambling, their projects stalling without our expertise. Diane tried to spin it, claiming a strategic pivot, but the board wasn't fooled. Karen filed the lawsuit, attaching the memo as evidence. Local business blogs picked up the story, praising my bold move while questioning Pinnacle's ethics. Diane's reputation took a hit, her LinkedIn flooded with subtle shade from industry peers. Vanessa, unprepared for the workload, made costly errors, losing another client. I heard through Priya that Diane was working 80-hour weeks, her polish fading under the stress. The aftermath was a mix of triumph and struggle. Starting Brooks Consulting was exhilarating but exhausting. We worked from my dining table, laptops humming, takeout boxes piling up. Some clients hesitated, wary of a new firm, but Elena's endorsement carried weight. We landed 2 more contracts, enough to cover salaries and rent a small office. But there were nights I doubted myself, staring at spreadsheets, wondering if I'd risked too much. Marcus kept me grounded, bringing pizza and bad puns to our late-night planning sessions. Jenna drove down with her kids, their hugs a reminder of why I was fighting. The lawsuit dragged on, Diane's lawyers stalling, but Karen was relentless. "They're scared," she said. "The memo's a smoking gun." Pinnacle offered a settlement, $75,000, but I refused. I wanted the bonus, plus damages, and an apology. I wasn't settling for less. A year later, I stood in my new office, a modest yet vibrant space bathed in sunlight streaming through expansive windows that framed Atlanta's skyline. The whiteboard, scrawled with intricate project plans in colorful markers, buzzed with the promise of growth. Brooks Consulting had blossomed to 10 dedicated employees, each a testament to my vision, with Horizon Innovations as our steadfast anchor client, their trust in me unwavering. The lawsuit, a grueling battle of wills, had ended triumphantly in my favor, a $50,000 bonus rightfully mine, $100,000 in damages for the injustice, and a humbling public apology from Pinnacle's board, published in the industry's top journals. Diane Warner, once a titan in her gleaming corner office, was demoted, her authority stripped, replaced by an outsider who vowed transparency and reform. Her career, once deemed untouchable, lay in tatters, her reputation shredded by her own hubris. I saw her at an industry conference in Savannah, her forced smile cracking under the weight of colleagues' hushed whispers, their eyes darting with judgment. She avoided my gaze, her shoulders hunched, but I didn't need her acknowledgement, my victory spoke louder than words. I'd proven my worth, not just to her but to myself. My team threw a raucous party to celebrate, fairy lights twinkling above our new office as we toasted to Irreplaceable Lydia. As I looked around, at Priya's radiant grin, Jamal's mock speech that had us doubled over in laughter, Sarah's curated playlist pulsing through the room, I felt whole, my heart mended by purpose and pride. Diane had thought she could erase me, discard me like a forgotten file, but I'd built something far greater, a legacy of resilience and brilliance. What do you do when someone dares to call you replaceable? You rise, unyielding, and show them the staggering cost of their mistake.